The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren.
This is episode 35 of the Warren and Bradley Show. We're going to have a jam-packed show yet again, as usual. There's several listener feedback questions that we haven't gotten to that we need to get to this week.
The mailbag is overflowing.
It's bulging.
Yes.
Bulging full. We're going to have Street Freak of the Week, 2 contenders this week that Warren will choose.
I'll be very judicious.
It'll be pretty stiff competition,
Yeah.
I think. But, you know, we'll see what we can do. We'll have some Celebrity Minute and just inane chatter, as usual.
Good. Can't wait to listen.
Do you ever listen to the shows?
I actually didn't finish the last one.
Oh,
I got distracted.
got
Something was
too bored.
happening, and then I didn't get around to it. And then I like saw it there, and I was like, oh, I have like 15 minutes left. I'll listen later.
I listen. Sometimes I don't because I'm editing for hours and hours and hours, and it's like, I never want to hear this.
Well, you've already heard
shit
it before.
again. Well, kind of, but you don't. I guess it's different when it's all put together, and I cut out all our that we do throughout the episode.
It's strange how I barely remember what we had talked about just
Yeah.
like a couple days before, and I'm always like, huh, what, really?
Well, yeah.
It's like a new
And
show
I
to
purposely
me.
edit your dialogue to make you sound like a fool by taking
Yeah.
words here and there.
Usually I say a lot of really articulate things that Brad cuts out.
No, actually, you should thank me because anytime you go or pause for long periods, I usually cut that down. So it sounds. I do that for me too. So it makes it sound like we're quick,
We're really snappy,
witty.
yeah.
I'm just going to go right off the bat again and complain. That
Okay.
seems to be the tradition for the intro segment of this show.
You
where
seem to be growing in anger as the weeks go by.
You know, there was a period a couple weeks ago where I was feeling okay, not horribly annoyed with everyone in the world, but it's building again. But see, I just had the blow up a while ago where I need the guy's car.
Yeah.
A need with a K.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not Knead. I wasn't kneading it like a
Dough.
like a pizza dough.
No.
No.
You spell that kind of need different, I guess, yeah. I never really thought about it. I didn't realize there's so many different kinds of need, but
There's
there
a lot
really
of
are a
needs,
lot of need.
yeah.
There's the,
Well, the K, the silent K that we have in the English language now is a holdover from the old German roots of English, where the K is pronounced in the old Germanic.
like Canute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Knife. Knights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I had my little blowout before, and that usually calms me for a while,
Yeah.
like once I just erupt on somebody. But it's building again. I went out last night and again was just struck by the vacuousness of everyone around me and how everyone is so self-absorbed and just completely unaware of the effect they have on everyone else in the world. Just walking around, it was like I could hear it was like the Hall of the Mountain King playing in my head where it gets to the crazy crescendo and just seeing all these snippets of these faces with their mouths open, spittle flying, laughing like hyenas. There was this chick who looked exactly like the crazy meth addict from Breaking Bad who drops the ATM machine on her.
Yes,
on
I remember
Spooge
that, yes.
in that episode. She looked just like that, and she was like running around everywhere and like telling me that she was like, suck my dick, and like, yeah, I don't know. It was just like, and all these people. I got in a big argument with somebody who I was hanging out with because, I don't know, she was just offended by things, even though the statement I made was it was like saying that the sky is blue, basically. It was not an offensive statement at all, but it's just like this mentality that everyone has that my opinion is universally important, and if you say anything that impinges upon my worldview or in some way makes me feel like I'm not absolutely correct about everything, then that will offend me, and I'll have to express the fact that I'm offended, and then you have to do something to rectify that. Where, who gives a shit? You know, it's just so irritating to me. And it was continuing throughout today where I tried to go downtown and, you know, the other week where I, didn't almost run over the woman, but the woman just walked through the
Yes, I
crosswalk
remember
when my
that.
light was green. Another guy did that today. He just moseys on out. I'm trying to go through the intersection. I stop and he's just like, gets out his cell phone and starts talking on it while he's standing in the middle of the intersection and I'm trying to go. So I honk at him. He flips me off. I honked at him again. He still is like, just kind of waves me away. So again, I did the lurch forward thing, like I was going to hit him.
Kill somebody at some point.
I probably will eventually. Then I had another group of idiot college kids who were just standing in the middle of the road talking to each other. And again, I pulled up. It's like, I'm trying to drive through here. They don't give a shit. They're walking there. They're talking there. They're laughing and joking. Who cares that they're blocking traffic and that there's tons of people trying to get through on the street? It's
okay,
their
you realize
road.
you've turned into a crazy old man now.
It's not even about these young kids. It's about everybody. Every human in the world.
That's what cranky old men are like, though.
I don't know. Their job is to piss me off, apparently.
And you just look around and you just get angered by all these weird people doing weird things.
I tried.
Just gotta accept people for who they are.
I tried. I have tried over and over and over again to see the bright side.
Well,
to
where's
look
this
at
getting
people.
you, though? Where's this rage going?
I don't know. It's
Is this going to end up in a Dark Knight shootout situation?
Yeah, we'll get to that later. I'm very good at not killing people. I never have killed anybody, and I don't think I ever
Well, your
will.
car's lurching at people right now.
Well, I just had to give him a little impetus to get out of there.
It's a slippery slope at that point.
Maybe the next time I'll just give him a little nudge with the car, and then I just ran over his foot. It was no big deal.
I don't want these podcasts to be an evidence at your murder trial.
We've talked about that before. I don't think that's going to happen. I wouldn't worry about it. The most that I do is yell at a stranger who's a dick to me. That's the most that I'll ever do. I don't know. It's not always like this, though. There will be a point where I'll wake up and just be amused by the shenanigans.
It's because
that
you're
people indulge
bipolar,
in.
I guess. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
You're swinging wildly
It's some
between
sort of
rage
medication,
and
perhaps.
a manic state where you're joyfully enjoying everyone's activities.
Well, there was actually one thing that sort of amused me today. Again, I was in the bagelry. There seems to be this weird thing where little children are constantly running into me.
Yeah.
I was just standing in line waiting to order, and suddenly I feel this against my leg, and I look down. There's this little 3-year-old girl flat on her back. It's like, what the hell? She just ran into me and fell over. And so I was like, oh, and helped her up, and she was just kind of didn't seem upset or anything.
Yeah.
Just sort of brushed herself off. So then when I went to sit down, she of course had to come over and wave at me and try.
Yeah.
And this always puts me in an awkward position because little kids are always staring at me or waving at me or making faces at me. And if I reciprocate, then their parents think I'm some creepy weirdo who's fucking around with their kids.
Yeah, kind of. But at the same time, it's who cares about those parents?
Yeah, but I don't know. It puts me in an awkward position. But anyway, she came near my table. And she started climbing one of the chairs near my table, and it was rocking back
That's
and
dangerous,
forth. And she was I don't know, she's probably 3 years old or something. And I was like, ugh, and wanted to go steady the chair, but again, I didn't want to get, I'm handling your child or something, And I don't know where her mom was. But she got up, she was half standing on the chair, half standing on the windowsill, and pressing herself up against the glass, and jumping up and down, and then looking at me to make sure I was noticing that she was doing these things, and all right, okay, be careful there. And then of course she finally kicked off the back of the chair started toppling over, and she started toppling over, and so I caught her. I lurched up very quickly, amazing reaction time on my part, and caught her and put her back down on the ground, and she just again was meh, running around. And then her mom came and said that she had to go, and she immediately went and then just collapsed to the floor.
Yeah.
Completely boneless, some form of nonviolent protest or something.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious because her mom's come on now, we have to go. And she was just dead on the ground and wouldn't move. And so her mom started trying to pick her up and took her by one arm, and she was just this limp rag doll, and then eventually just dragged her out of the restaurant. It was hilarious.
I think I would prefer if my child did that rather than get violent. You know?
The screaming fit.
Just sort of go Gandhi on you and just kind of lay there, or get some sort of civil rights demonstration. You can bring a little garden hose out and hose her down and stuff. It's a good time.
I was quite amused. I was laughing, and then the mother wasn't very amused by my mirth at the whole subject. But
Well, her life she's got a problem in her life. She's got a 3-year-old. It's annoying all the time.
it's a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be laughing either.
I don't know. I'd like to think that my parenting strategy would be such that my kids would pretty much be under my control most of the time.
Well, I'm worried about your parenting strategy, frankly.
No, I'm good.
Really?
I'm very good. I'm very reasonable with children, but stern and fair. And I have a good hey voice. It always stops them right in their tracks. They just freeze.
Yeah.
Hey, and I can glare at them pretty well.
Yeah, I think that kid's gonna have a great time.
Yeah,
It's getting snapped at in a corner, being glared at.
He will call me sir.
Yeah, exactly.
And father.
They wander the streets, scavenging for loose change and discarded cigarette butts.
Spare $1.
And give me a motherfucking cigarette.
I ran out of gas ways back. I got you, man.
You smoke weed, don't you?
Good, my car.
I could use some change.
They may be mentally unstable and deserving of our charity, but that doesn't mean they can't be selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
I can't remember if it was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we debuted the flamboyantly gay pirate homeless man. Well, I had another run-in with this man. I've been seeing him all around town lately. I don't know if he just moved into the area or...
It's fate.
I don't know. Or if he was homeless elsewhere and now has decided to be homeless here. But the other day I was wearing this sort of sleeveless Clash t-shirt that I have. It's a nice shirt. It's good. Fits me well.
Yeah.
And I was walking down the street, and who do I see walking towards me but the flamboyantly gay pirate homeless man? Mm-hmm. And I wish I could get a picture of him without it seeming exploitative, but he is the oddest version of like homeless, chic, gay. It's so hard to describe, but he's got, like this time he was wearing this Lycra mesh shirt.
Yeah.
But like a bedraggled Lycra mesh shirt, but still a Lycra mesh shirt.
Yeah.
He had necklaces on. He still had his kind of pantaloon things, wearing these big bug-eye white sunglasses and sort of a skull cap pulled down to the sunglasses, and this really huge beard, but trimmed in sort of a stylish way.
He's got a sense of style, this guy.
I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but he sees me approaching, and he's like, I love your shirt. I'm like, oh, thank you. And so he stops me, and I'm like, okay, I'll talk to the pirate homeless man. This might be a street freak of the week. And he's like, oh my God, that shirt is amazing. I used to have a 1969 Black Sabbath shirt that fit me just like that did. It was amazing. And if you have a body like that and a shirt like that, you have to work it. Just work it. Okay, he wants me to work it?
Yeah,
right now? Like,
you should be working it.
What does that
if you have a shirt
entail?
like that,
Because he was like paused, waiting for me to quote work it. And I was like, okay, yeah, thanks. It's a good shirt. It's like, where'd you get it? I'm like, I don't know. Somebody gave it to me or something. I think an ex-girlfriend gave it to me. And then he's like, yeah, I had that shirt, and then this bitch stole it. Okay.
You think the bitch was a man?
I think it was a bitch.
Really?
I mean, I think it was a woman. And he said, yeah, and she also stole my square-toed black leather biker boots. I'm like, okay, his whole demeanor had suddenly changed, just on like a switch had been pulled. And suddenly he started screaming about the bitch who stole his 1969 Black Sabbath shirt and black square-toed leather biker boots, and went into a rant about all the things he was going to do to her if he ever saw her again. And it was disturbing, to say the least.
Well, what was he going to do to her?
Oh, my God. There were things about, like, raping her with batons and things and, like, shoving things into her eyeballs and decapitating her like crazy. Just lost all control. Spittle flying out of his mouth. And so I just went, okay, and just walked away. I went back to my car, and I don't know, it was about 10, 15 minutes later, I was driving and saw him on the corner waving his arms around, and I could hear, that bitch! Like, he was still screaming about the bitch who stole his square-toed leather black biker boots and his 1969 Black Sabbath shirt.
I like the fact that you still seem a little bit, like, confused or troubled by the fact that he demonstrated all the psychosis.
Well,
he's a psychotic street person.
Know,
of course he's going to say things like that.
It's interesting to me that he can have sort of a normal conversation, and then it's just, bam, on a dime, he switches to crazy mode.
Yes.
It just freaks the fuck out.
That's what they do. That's how they manage to stay alive, yet still just barely stay alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a little bit going on so you can at least get food in your mouth and
well,
water.
I hope you encounter this guy at some point, because
I don't know.
He's out there.
I'm sure I'll see him at some point.
I'll point him out to you if you see
He won't talk to me, though, because I won't be working it in any way that he'll, like, respect.
Well, maybe you should get some sleeveless shirts.
I'll have to start, like, going out there, like,
town.
trying to, like, put on a show for him and, like, draw him out to talk to me.
Yeah, gay men like me. I should be gay. Probably have sex. That's Street Freak number 1.
Yes, okay.
Street Freak number 2 is actually almost more disturbing. I was having my lunch, and as often is the case when I'm working, I just go to some fast food place and get something shitty and eat it in my car.
Which one did you go to?
This time it was a McDonald's.
Okay.
And it was a hot day, very sunny, and I couldn't find any place with shade in the McDonald's parking lot.
Yeah.
And so I drove around and found a grocery store that there were some trees, and I shaded my car, and I was watching Breaking Bad on my iPhone while eating my food.
Quaint
Yeah.
afternoon this is.
And I noticed there's this embankment facing the parking space that I had picked, and there was a homeless man up near a gas station up there, and he was eating an ice cream sandwich.
Oh,
and
yummy.
he was going to town on this
Yeah.
thing, just like blah, 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 and he got it all over his face like a little kid. He had like cookie crumbs and the ice cream just all over his lips
sure.
and kind of
Yeah.
in his beard. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll check this out for a while. So I watched him eating his ice cream sandwich, and then he noticed me looking at him, and he immediately went, "Ugh," and pointed at his head. It's a really, really angry gesture, pointing at his head, then pointed at me.
Uh-oh.
Ugh.
I think
Point-
you were communicating things to him, like, in his mind.
Maybe.
That's what it looks like.
It's possible. Or at least he was picking up something, and I
Yeah.
wasn't aware that I was giving it off. But he kept doing this. He would point to me, and then
Yeah.
point to his head, and glare at me. I was like, okay. So I proceeded to sort of try not to meet his gaze anymore, like I wasn't paying attention to him.
Well, yeah, that's normal. That's what most people would do.
So he finished his ice cream sandwich, still mad dogging me from up on the embankment. And all of a sudden he started kind of shuffling around, and I noticed he picked up an old license plate that was laying there.
Really?
He picked up the license plate and waved it at me,
Yeah.
and then pointed at me again,
Yeah.
and then waved it again. Like, okay, where is this going? What's going to happen? Then he started hitting himself in the head with the license plate, and then pointing at me again,
Yeah.
while hitting himself. All right, then. So finally he reached a crescendo of hitting and pointing and jumping around, and he started walking down the embankment towards me,
Oh, good.
as though there was going to be some sort of
You can
confrontation.
get injured with a license plate, too.
Yeah, I mean, they have a sharp edge
Yeah,
on
sharp
there.
edge on there.
I could just imagine him, like, slitting my throat. Well, I don't know if I'd let him get that close, but
You imagine? What a way to die. What an ironic way for you to die
Yeah.
after all these street freaks of the week, to die at the hands of
he
a
died
homeless
doing
man.
what he loved.
Yeah.
He started approaching. He's like, oh, Jesus, should I drive away? What's he going to do?
Well, I feel like maybe in the past, before you had a podcast where you talked about street freaks,
I probably just would've
you probably
left.
would have just left. But now
Yeah.
you're like, hey, material, bring him on.
Let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
But before he reached me, he tripped. And he tumbled down the embankment.
Oh, no.
It was just like this dirt, very steep embankment. Tumbled down, came to a rest right at the, the little, like, curb things they put in front of parking spaces so
Yeah.
you don't drive forward. He went, hit his head on that, and was just, like, lying there on the ground. The license plate sort of near him. His backpack had come off. And so now I'm in a car with a potentially concussed or unconscious homeless man with ice cream all over his face. So it's like, okay, should I get out and check on this guy? But I gave it a few minutes. He finally came to. I don't know if he was actually knocked out, but he was just kind of like, ugh. He got up, picked up his license plate, picked up his backpack, put the license plate back in the backpack, saw me, and gave me the most winning smile you'd ever seen, and then just sauntered away. So whatever violence he was planning on doing to me, I guess got knocked out of him by the fall.
He may have
Maybe
forgotten.
he'll go back to his job as an accountant now, and he'll be
He was
find his
taking a
kids
lunch
and his
break,
wife.
maybe.
I don't know.
I think he's your winner right there, number 2.
Really?
Yeah, I like the license plate, and I like the pointing, and
Okay.
the fall, too. It's a good story.
All right, so congratulations, Mr. Ice Cream Sandwich Eating, License Plate Waving, Pointing Homeless Man. You've been selected as the Warren and Bradley Show, the Street Freak of the Week.
Congratulations.
Our hats are off to you, Mr. Homeless Man, because you've been selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week. Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
All right, welcome to Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. The major story this week, obviously, even though it's not necessarily a celebrity story, it has entertainment connotations.
I guess.
I don't know. Is the shooting in Colorado at the movie theater at the midnight premiere of The Dark Knight Rises. I'm trying to find the guy's name. I can't remember what it is now. James Holmes.
Yeah, James Holmes.
24-year-old James Holmes went into a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, proceeded to release a couple canisters of tear gas, and then just started shooting into the crowds. Killed 12, injured many more. One of the victims was a 6-year-old girl. Obviously horrible, senseless tragedy. The interesting thing about the story is the things that are coming out about the suspect now. He had previously been enrolled in a graduate program at
University of Colorado at Denver, I believe.
Yes, University of Colorado, Denver. He was studying like neuroscience. But I guess he had withdrawn from the program a little bit before this happened. It's looking now like he had been planning this for a long time. He had made all these internet purchases of ammunition and the protective vest that he wore. He also had booby-trapped his apartment with all sorts of incendiary devices that were set to explode if anyone entered the apartment.
And as they apprehended him after the shooting, I know he had told the law enforcement officials that was true of his apartment.
Yes, which is interesting. Like, why booby-trap the apartment and then tell them my apartment?
Well, if you're a mad villain, maybe that's something you would do.
See, yeah, and this is what Warren and I were discussing earlier when I was talking about this story with him. It looks as though he supposedly had dyed his hair to look like the Joker from the Batman movies. When he was apprehended, he told the police that he was the Joker. And I guess he was wearing body armor, but sort of supposedly dressed like the Joker or something. I'm not exactly sure the details on that. But there are a lot of weird parallels with the movies. Like, all the incendiary devices in his apartment were very much like in The Dark Knight, where the Joker had all those incendiary devices and he blew up Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh, yeah.
It's very similar. Also, just the idea of going out and creating mayhem.
For no reason at all.
Yes, and then turning himself into the police, just as the Joker did in the movies.
Because he knows he can get out. He knows he can escape.
Well, I know. Do you think he has some sort of escape plan? Did he sew a cell phone into a fat man?
This is going to blow up if that guy gets out of prison somehow.
Well, it's...
Can you imagine?
I mean, this isn't a movie, for one thing. So the chances of him actually having some sort of nefarious scheme to break out of prison are probably very slim. But I wonder if in his crazy mind he thinks that that's what's going to happen.
I know last week I was reading a lot on the internet about the Supermax prison, actually, in Florence, Colorado. Mm-hmm. And... I don't think if they put him in there, he'll be able to get out.
He's not like he's not in a holding cell with a bunch of other dudes.
No, he would have to be really good. It would be really impressive.
Well, hopefully the police commissioner doesn't take him into a cell and then get angry because of his taunts and lose control and then set his whole nefarious scheme into motion. There's also some weird shit about, it's the classic thing of he was quiet, kept to himself. Kind of odd, but brilliant. Seemed very intelligent.
Of course, you have to be that way to pull this thing off, right? Because if you are drawing a lot of attention to yourself, someone will come into your apartment and find everything.
If you were a very socially adjusted, gregarious, happy person, you probably wouldn't go into a theater and massacre tons of people.
Yes, that's also true.
So the idea that he was kind of awkward and quiet. Like, yes, he was not voted best personality in his high school yearbook.
No.
I don't think. Here's a recent photo that we'll post online.
He looks evil.
He looks kind of crazy there.
Yeah.
And there's the high school yearbook post.
Like super crazy in that one.
Very crazy there. Like a geek though. There's also apparently he had posted a profile on adultfriendfinder.com.
Oh, Jesus.
And was accessing the profile as early as like 3 days before the actual shooting. It's interesting. He has, under his title, Classic Jimbo 24 Male, his quote is, "Will you visit me in prison?"
What would be amazing if someone actually responded to that profile.
I know.
He met somebody.
Well, he lists his male endowment as short average, so I don't know if he's going to have a lot of... Says that he is birth date December 10th, 1987, marital status single, height 6 foot, body type athletic, preferred not to say if he's smoking, light social drinker, preferred not to say if he does drugs, education some grad school, race Caucasian, male endowment short average, circumcised yes. He's also looking for a fling or casual sex. He's a nice guy. Well, nice enough of a guy who does these sorts of shenanigans.
Well, he's not a nice guy.
No.
We've come to find out.
No. Killing, I can't even remember how many were injured, but yeah, 12 people dead.
Killing a bunch of innocent people, not a good person.
So, hopefully, as we said, his nefarious scheme to break out of prison and cause mayhem on a massive scale does not come to fruition. And I'm sure he will be tried and convicted and perhaps killed.
It seems unlikely he'll get away at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
If he does, we'll continue to cover the story, of course. And we may become Batman and Robin and track him down if we have to do that.
And bring him to justice.
Yeah. Oh, no, is that Octomom?
Yes.
Ugh.
Look at this. Octomom Nadia Suleiman gets mixed reviews for stiff stripping debut. So Nadia Suleiman, who filed for bankruptcy, is now selling her body, apparently, in a strip club. She performed at the Playhouse South Gentlemen's Club in Hallandale, Florida, for her first time, wearing a dominatrix outfit. She stripped down to her panties. A fellow stripper told the Miami Herald that she has some areas that need improvement. She's really stiff, the girl said. Oh my God, she can't dance. But it's good for the rest of us girls because she made it a busy Friday night. We're going to get extra tips.
What sort of person goes to that strip club to see Octomom?
I guess it's like watching a circus sideshow because she's not attractive in any way.
It's a car accident.
I'm
type
assuming
thing, right?
after having a litter of puppies, the stretch mark quotient is going to be rather off the charts. We're looking at a picture of her now in this weird little jumpsuit. It's not a pretty picture.
Yeah, it's repulsive.
She's still contemplating porn, which we can all look forward to. Going into the same realm of like, who was Tanya Harding? She did some porn after the whole Nancy Kerrigan scandal.
I believe
think.
so. I believe she did. Yeah.
John Wayne Bobbitt. After
Yeah, I
his
also think
penis
Bob,
cut off.
right, with his penis cut off.
So it's porn that is not necessarily alluring. It's just for the freak factor. I think people want to look at that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's true. I think that's what people want, you know. I mean, it's some sort of draw. There's so much pornography around, right? And if you have some sort of hook, like it's Tanya Harding, people will be like, well, I know who that is. So then that's what people watch.
You would think after having so many children, the performer, the male talent in the porn movie would be able to just like crawl right up her uterus or something. It seems like, I don't know.
I will, well, because of these descriptions, I will probably not be watching this
Wear like
pornography.
a hat. This story is good.
21 burned in walk over hot coals at Robbins event.
Tony Robbins, the Unleash the Power Within weirdo who
With
gives
the,
all
they
these...
have the giant mouth, right?
Yes, he's
yeah.
the biggest mouth in the world. He
Yeah.
gives all these self-help seminars. Apparently set up a walk through hot coals event to show people the power that they have within them. But 21 suffered second and third degree burns,
Yeah.
and they were overrun at the hospital burn unit because of all the people who were wailing and screaming and in horrible pain.
If you're going to one of these Robbins events, you have no power within. You have nothing. You're ridiculous.
Apparently, he's been doing this for a while, and I don't. Does every time he does this, do people get horrible burns?
No, there must have been something wrong with the coals or something wrong with the way it was done.
Well, they're burning coals. Like, what does he think's going to happen?
But you can walk on burning coals.
You can, but it's all about technique.
Yes. Maybe these people didn't take their coaching properly. Or maybe this was the first time and he's like, I saw this on TV. I'll put some coals out and tell people to walk
It
across
just
them.
seems like so much could go wrong with this kind of thing. It's maybe he's proving some point. He gets some people to walk across coals. Great.
Well, the
But
point's been proven now, apparently, right? To these people, they know that they shouldn't try anything. Because
I
they
guess-
tried this and they ended up in the hospital.
I just love the idea of this. And let's see. It's
Uh-oh. Another one.
It's a train break.
This one's going south, actually.
This is a train break.
Never look good.
That's better.
Freight train? Yeah, it's freight train. It's got all freight train for a while.
That really hurt my throat. Oh, mercy.
yeah.
That was a good train break.
So, Tony Robbins,
Yes.
is he just inspiring you to do better with things in general? He's not, like, pushing real estate or anything like that?
I don't think so. He's just a self-help guru, and so he's just all about the power of your own mind, the power within. You can. There was some quote here: "The intention of the event is to get your focus and your attention away from that and look into the power within yourself." That, I mean, I guess the idea that you can't do something.
Yeah.
And look into the power within yourself and focus on just walking on the fire. Which
Don't walk on the
I don't know.
fire.
I guess it's an illustration of something, I guess. But why don't you try to focus your mind on something that's actually useful and show that you can overcome that?
Well, the other thing you could do is if you have a challenge in your life, just face that challenge.
Yeah.
And not put this ham-fisted metaphor in the way of walking over coals that actually burn your feet and slow you down. Don't be such a pussy.
All right, then. So that's the end of Celebrity Minute on the
Okay,
Warren Bradley
good.
Show.
This has been Celebrity Minute on The Warren and Bradley Show.
All right, then. We've had so many listeners writing in asking for us to comment on, things that they bring up. We've picked the most interesting missives from the thousands and thousands that we get.
Lies.
So let's get right into listener feedback, shall we?
Dear Warren and Bradley, I am writing this missive to let you know that I was utterly delighted with last week's episode. Your tales of prostitutes and the indigent are always quite illuminating, and I say, could you turn off that racket? Turn it off, I say! What are you doing? Can't hear myself making this ridiculous noise.
Listener feedback on The Warren and Bradley Show.
All right. We're going to try to get through these as quick as possible because, like we said, there are just too many to really give enough time to. But this question is from Jennifer. Longtime listener, first-time writer, but I thought I'd ask you guys for some advice. I was wondering what you think about screen time and if we should limit it or live with it. I typically work on my computer during the day for about 8 to 10 hours, then watch TV at night, and I'm on my iPhone throughout the day. What do you guys think is a good amount? Thanks.
It's an interesting question because there are a lot of people nowadays who do get up in the morning, turn on the TV, and then go to the office and sit in front of a computer all day, and then come home and like watch TV or watch their iPad and fall asleep.
Yeah.
It seems a little excessive, right?
Yes. People are constantly talking about this society we have now where people are constantly plugged in at all times and feel like they need to have access to all this information. And there's all this shit that we take in now that we didn't take in 20, 30 years ago. I guess we've always kind of had screen time, so I'm trying. I guess if we could think about our parents' lives.
Well, I was reading an essay recently about TV.
Yes.
And it was discussing that at the time the essay was written, which was in the early 90s, the author was talking about the fact that the average American watches 6 hours a day at the time.
It's crazy.
Which is pretty crazy. But people, when we were growing up, people were watching a lot of TV and people were discussing that, right? The fact that people are watching too much TV. It's always like people spend all these hours in front of the TV. Now, with the fact that personal computers and computers at work are so important to what people do in their life, it's like we're spending more time in front of screens than we were before. It probably has a deleterious effect in the sense that people aren't like moving around and doing things.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it does to you, like, mentally or emotionally to always be looking at a screen, like, through a window at other things.
I don't know. I think if there is any sort of negative effect based upon people just constantly being just staring at a screen, whether it be at work, constantly being on Facebook, or checking out, celebrity news on the Wonderwall.
Yes.
Or constantly just like, it's like on Twitter, all these little snippets of information that people need to know all the time. You start relating to people through a computer or through an intermediary instead of relating to people face to face. Like I saw people, I was at the beach the other day and there was a group of teenagers. All of them had their cell phones out and they were in the sun at the lake, but the entire time they were just on Facebook or text messaging. Some of them were communicating with each other through posts on their Facebook wall. I could hear them discussing this instead of actually turning to the left and speaking to the person next to them. It's
got to do something to one's imagination or creativity, right? I know when we were children, there wasn't this sort of like level of stimulation around us constantly.
No.
We kind of like had to like make things up.
We had to think of things to do that were
And
fun.
even like now when you're in your car, there's so many options, right? And it used to be maybe you could listen to the radio, maybe you couldn't, and it'd be something awful. You wouldn't listen to it anyway, so you'd have time to think.
Right.
And your brain would have to like, make up its own entertainment and stuff. I don't know if that's going on anymore.
No, I think people are stupider than they were.
I remember, going on road trips many years ago, and I didn't have access to email. I didn't have a cell phone with me.
Yeah.
And I would be thousands of miles away from anyone I knew.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have any way to contact them unless I went to a payphone and like tried to like call them at the right time and got a hold of them.
I think most people nowadays would be panicked in a situation like that. Like not being in constant contact with their so-called friends would just freak them out.
Yeah.
Constantly being on screen time, basically, I think, is turning people into... I think it's leading to a little bit more self-absorption. It's turning a little more narcissistic, a little disconnected, and in general irritating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've felt myself getting stupider as the years go by just because of this.
Yeah, that's probably true. And even the sense like a work of art, like a film or music or anything like that, if something, before it comes to you, before you get it, it's already been like through this like filter of
You
everyone
know what
else's
to
reaction.
think about it before
Like you were talking
yeah.
about maybe going to see the Batman movie tonight.
Yeah.
Hopefully you won't, the penguin won't kill you.
No,
Or
hopefully.
someone, yeah, pretending they're the penguin won't kill you.
Yeah.
And then I asked you, what are the reviews? Because I wanted to know what the sense of it was, because it's like, in a sense, if you already know that it's a movie that people like,
Then you are prepared
it changes your
to like it, yeah.
expectations. Yeah, and you no longer have the ability to like see this thing and have it affect you in a way that's like independent of how everyone else thinks about it already.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, whatever in the sense too, but it's also like
The genie's out of the bottle now.
the genie's out of the bottle, but it connects you to everything that's a long ways away from you, but I think it like separates you from what's closer to you.
I agree completely.
Because
yeah.
you always have your iPod on. You always have like a phone you're looking at, and you no longer see what's around you.
Yeah.
And you no longer have, your own unique experience. You have the experience that everyone else is having, mediated through this like internet.
So hey kids, let's get off those computers and go out and experience some life. We don't have a hell of a lot of time in this segment, but let's get to another missive from one of our listeners. This is from B. Your recent coverage of Sage Stallone's death made me think that the recent Tetra Pak Air scandal would be good fodder for your podcast. I've been following the story, and it's great Warren and Bradley material. Billionaire body found after a week, drugs, husband accused, smuggled drugs into the embassy, money, more drugs, sadness. The story that she is referring to, I don't know if any of you are aware, it's a bigger story in Europe and England. One of the largest food packaging companies in the world is Tetra Pak. And apparently in the 60s, they invented a method for... I don't know if we need to get into all this history, but basically it's like it was a very economical and safe way of packaging food.
Yeah.
And basically it's like a paper treated with certain materials, and I don't know. But
At this point in our life as a people, and you and our whole existence, we forget how food used to be actually
Right.
dangerous to people.
Yes.
And how having a grocery store called Safeway makes sense because your food is actually maybe safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a multi-billion-dollar company. They're huge, based in Sweden. And one of the heirs to this fortune is a man named Hans Rausing. He was married to an American woman who they met each other in drug rehab, apparently.
Of course. I mean, if you're an heir to a large fortune, you end up in rehab inevitably.
But they were huge philanthropists. They would donate large sums of money to drug rehabilitation efforts. And basically what has occurred is that the body of his wife, Ava, was found in their house in London. She had been dead for approximately 14 days and was under a pile of dirty clothes and garbage bags.
Yeah.
Again, we laugh. We're not laughing at the death.
No.
We're laughing at the image, well, not even the image of the corpse under the blankets, but we're laughing at the idea that if your wife dies, you're just like, meh, throw some dirty clothes over the corpse.
Also, this is a constant theme throughout the show.
Yeah.
Too much, too soon, too much for doing nothing if
Right.
you're the heir somewhere.
It was his father who built up
Yeah.
the company, and
Doesn't often go well.
No.
Because rather than striving for something, you just end up like becoming incredibly decadent and burying your wife and stuff after you're on drugs.
So let's put ourselves into the mind of this Hans Rausing.
Yeah.
From what the investigation has been able to determine so far, he's only been charged with preventing the burial of his wife. He hasn't been charged with her murder.
Is that a crime, preventing the burial?
I guess if somebody dies and you store them somewhere and don't let them be buried, that is a crime.
I guess that's probably, yeah.
And so it looks like it was probably a drug-related death. There's actually recent pictures of her, not looking too good.
Let me see that. Blow that one up.
This one will not blow up, apparently.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious, she doesn't look good.
We'll post this picture online. It's Ava
She doesn't look like
Rausing.
she's eating.
No, she looks like she's maybe taking a lot of meth or speed or something, and going tanning, but not eating. Anyway, so it looks like it was probably drug-related, her death. The husband has also had problems with drugs in the past. I would assume that if he found his wife's corpse and decided not to bury it, he's probably currently having problems with drugs. So, Warren, you're the billionaire son of the Tetra Pak fortune. Your wife, she dies. She ODs.
Yeah.
You're upset. Mm-hmm. Like, how upset are you, for one thing?
I don't know. Because it makes you wonder. That's why something must have been going on here, right?
Yeah.
Makes you suspicious, right? Because even if you are whacked out on drugs and your wife dies in ODs and you're very paranoid about being busted,
Right.
You really just want to bury that person under garbage.
Well, it's kind of ignoring the problem and hoping it goes away, but a corpse doesn't really go away.
No.
It actually, the problem becomes worse the longer the corpse is there.
Yeah.
But it was, I guess they had a very large house with many rooms, but you would think at some point a maid would be going through there
Yeah.
like, oh.
It's the whole thing about, biting the bullet, which is what a lot of life is, right?
Yeah.
You can't be so passive and so resistant to any inconvenience that it just like completely cripples you.
Well, I think one thing they always say about the addict is that they live almost entirely in the moment.
Yeah.
And so, they're constantly just thinking about getting high again. And so I guess if, like, oh shit, my wife's dead. And then you're like, you see the dirty clothes basket, throw a little clothes over there. It's like, oh, I can't see the
Yeah, you
corpse
don't
anymore.
have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Right. There's no point to it.
Well, hopefully neither of us will ever get rich, so we don't ruin our
Oh,
children.
I don't think I don't think we're gonna have children or get rich. So I think that two things are gonna have to go really wrong for this to happen. Phew. Yeah, we dodged a bullet there. But that won't stop us from telling everyone else how to raise their children.
No, it will not. Speaking of telling everybody else how to live their lives, if you have any questions that you need,
Or you want to tell us how to live our lives?
we don't want to hear from you if you want to tell us how to live our lives.
I want to hear from you, please.
But if you want us to tell you how to live your life, send questions to podcast@warrenandbradley.com, and we will do our best to probably fuck you up for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's what we do.
We won't intentionally do it, but,
This has been listener feedback on the Warren and Bradley Show. If you'd like to get in touch, send your questions, comments, and concerns to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.
So the other week I was bitching about how we haven't really progressed with the whole cloning thing.
Yeah.
If it were possible to clone humans, which, I
Yeah.
mean, theoretically it is possible.
Yeah.
If you could get a clone of yourself, would you? And if so, what would you do with that clone?
I mean, what is this clone? This clone is like my slave then?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Because, okay, so cloning, technically, it's like you would have an identical twin.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if there's some process where he could accelerate his aging or something so he could become the same age as you, but he wouldn't necessarily have the same personality as you.
No, but he'd have the same genetic material.
And according to, if nobody else realized that this clone existed except for you, and if you somehow held some mental sway over him where you could force him to do your bidding, like, what would you do with the Warren clone? Would you send him to work?
Well, that's an interesting question, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think I would do that.
What would you do?
I don't think I'd want the clone in the first place.
Why
but
not?
If the clone, well, because it's a person.
So,
And I want to be
it's your
responsible for it.
person.
And there are plenty of people around. And I don't want a person. I would be like, I'd set him free.
And he would just run off into society, fucking with your name.
Well, that's why I wouldn't have him in the first place. I don't want this clone. What is a clone doing for me? I guess theoretically I could take the clone, right?
You could harvest
get a
his
job
organs if you needed them.
Well, that's true. I could get a job though, right?
Yeah.
And then just send him to work and then just collect the money.
Yeah.
And just have him live in a closet.
You'd
and
just be
go to
sitting
work.
on the couch, and he'd be like, "God damn it!" And you're like, "Get to work." You're like, why do I have to do everything you say? I don't know how this works, but for some reason he's completely indentured to you.
I feel like eventually he would snap and kill me, though.
Maybe what would happen is the whole process of getting a clone is you've paid all this money to get a clone.
Yeah.
And so now it is like indentured servitude where he has to do your bidding for like
This is
7 years or
Philip
something.
K. Dick
I
novel,
know.
isn't it? It's amazing.
And then at the end of that time, he can be set free and go
He's
have his own
70 and he
life.
gets to go get his own real job, work for himself. What a deal. I don't think I do it. Well, the other question is, though, if they made a clone and they actually made the baby,
Yeah.
a little infant, would you take one of those of yourself and raise it?
Yeah, maybe. I thought about that sometimes, too, as an alternative to actually having children. I would just have a me.
Yeah.
And I'd raise this little guy. And I would raise me in the way that I should have been raised. Like all the things that...
Yeah, fix all the defects that happened during
Yeah.
your own childhood and
Like-
see how you would have done if you had been raised in a more proper fashion.
Yeah, like all the times where I wasn't encouraged to pursue certain things
Yeah.
that I was interested in as a kid. Like give the kid all the opportunities that I didn't have and see if my genetic material, my essence is capable of greatness. Because I'm ruined now. Like
Yeah.
I've been ruined by life and my upbringing.
Yeah, me too.
But if I could have a second chance with my little clone.
Would you take that on?
Maybe.
If I said I could give you one in a month of yourself, a little baby Brad.
Yeah.
You take it?
Well, this is all hinges upon whether or not I'm rich when this happens, because
Oh, that's true. You
like,
can't raise
I'm not
a baby
have
right
a little
now.
baby in my apartment, little Brad running around
yeah.
here. What's he going to do?
What if an affluent family,
Uh-huh.
they work in computers, so they have a lot of money, and they're like, we're looking to adopt, but what we really want is a clone of you as a baby that we can raise.
Yeah.
Would you allow your genetic material to be used in that way?
Yeah, why not?
I might be okay with that too.
That's kind of cool.
It's weird though, in the sense that if some bad things happen to that kid, you're really responsible for that kid's existence.
Well, it might be kind of demoralizing too, because if in 20 years he's like Rhodes Scholar and on his way, and you're like, God damn it.
Is that better or worse?
I
though?
don't know.
You know what I mean? If the kid turns
Well,
out to be, you're like, this is genetic material did under like really prime conditions,
Yeah.
and it turns out to be a big failure, wouldn't you be like, well, I guess I did all right then?
Yeah, see, that actually might be better if he was just a fuck up. And I'd
But
be
it's
like,
true that if he does turn out to be the president of the United States, and you could have been the president of the United States under the right conditions,
Yeah.
that it's going to be a little bit
But
depressing.
maybe the problems I had as a child, some of the limitations that were placed on me, maybe that caused me to rise up over what I would have been. Maybe I would have just been a complete fuck up if I had been like raised the right way. I don't know. It's hard to say. But this could answer the question for us if we had our little clones. But I'm more interested in actually exploiting my clone. And I know I might have a few moral twinges because it is a human being.
I couldn't do it with a human being. I can't exploit a human being. If you give me an android that in every way mimics who I am,
Yeah.
I would feel much better about that, and I would send that android to work.
But he would have consciousness as well, wouldn't he?
Now we're really getting
He
to
would
the more-
have to, because he wouldn't be able to properly like replicate your personality unless he actually had a personality of his own.
You think that's true?
I don't know.
I don't know if that's true.
That's what I've read
I
in
think
science
that, let's say that they had the robotics laboratory. They just did a thing where they figured out what my reactions would be to anything that went on.
Yeah.
Right? And they just, programmed that into this thing without it having any consciousness. Right?
Well, they talk about the future of brain mapping techniques and processing power, that we're getting very close to being able to completely map somebody's brain and replicate their personality in software.
Yes.
But if that is the case, doesn't that then take on autonomy? Doesn't that become a being? Which I think is amazing too, because you could, if you did this, you paid like the $30,000 or whatever
Yeah.
to someplace, and you're like, okay, now I have me on disk.
Yeah.
So you plug them in, you open
Floppy
the-
disk, yeah.
Yeah, on a big 3.5-inch floppy disk. That's all it would take for me. You plug him into the computer, and you're like, hello. And he's like, hello. And it would be me. I'd be like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
And he would be a dick, and I'd be like, all right, shut the fuck up. But there are also limitations on the programming, so he does have to do what I tell him, even though
Yeah.
he's like pissed about it.
Yeah.
And then you could just send him, you could do like data entry, whatever. He could do online jobs for you. He could be making money on the internet.
Yeah.
You could send him out as your avatar to like collect information, maybe do illegal wire transfers and all sorts of things, and he would just be running rampant being me online.
I'd be okay with that if it was an android. Yeah.
But you're still enslaving a being.
Are you? Well, what's the Turing test? Do you remember the Turing test?
Yeah, the Turing test to prove whether or not something has consciousness for AIs.
How does that work?
There's a lot of controversy over whether or not it's actually relevant. I can't remember all the criteria that they use, but
Yeah.
I was reading about that a while ago because I was thinking about this very question about like having a little.
Well,
me
you
on
have
the
this, yeah,
computer.
because if you have this little being, part of the thing of being me or being you is the fact that we eventually, we have an imagination and things sort of are
Yeah.
spinning up there, even when we're not reacting to other people. And those things eventually come out in some way. We vocalize them in some way. So I guess that would be consciousness. So if the person was actually going to replicate you, they'd have to have that going on too.
And then if they're just in the cloud, like your personality is in the cloud of data that's out there,
Yeah.
think of what you would do, because you would have total recall. You'd be able to recall everything because it's software, and you would have
Yeah.
access to it. We wouldn't be like, I can't remember. It would just automatically be there. They would have access to every bit of information in the world, pretty much. Mm-hmm. You could become like a crazy supervillain. Well, it wouldn't be you. It would be your analog, your personality analog. I don't know.
But
It's pretty
The
cool.
other thing about that, if you were the only one, that would be true. But what if everyone had those?
Yeah.
And there are a bunch of them running
And then
around.
we'd be like fighting these cyber battles with each other or something. But if you can imagine a future where people enslave their personality, the analog of their personality, and make them work for them, and everybody who's affluent enough to afford this, they just sit back rest on their laurels, and this little personality matrix is working for them online. It's just, I don't know.
Well, wouldn't you, if you were really rich, wouldn't you enslave a smarter person's personality?
Yeah, but all the limitations on your intellect, like you would still, I guess maybe the legal ramifications, like you don't get the money unless it is you. It's your personality. I don't know. You'd have to register them probably with some government agency.
The point of this is we're all making computer copies of ourselves that just do our work for us, and we just hang out and do nothing.
Yes.
But you know that's not how humans operate, right?
No.
We'd just be more stressed out, constantly working on these things, and we work 14 hours a day trying to make these things better in some way.
Well, I don't know. And then I'm sure that mine would become nefarious and start doing horrible things.
Yeah,
and then
no doubt about it.
I would probably be. I'd probably be the one tried because I let my personality matrix run rampant through the internet.
It's a series of science fiction novels and movies like running together here, isn't it?
The main point I was trying to get to with the whole clone thing is that then you could have a threesome with your girlfriend.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You've talked. I remember. That's right. This is what you would be comfortable having a threesome.
Because I would never, ever want to have a threesome with another guy.
Yeah.
Ugh, that'd be gross. But if it were another me, we'd be like high-fiving, doing little poses.
But you could also have a twosome, you and yourself.
Yeah.
Making sweet love to yourself.
It's gross.
Well, it's gross. I mean, it's gross that you and another guy and a girl is gross, right? You're grossed out by that.
Yeah.
Because there's too much, like, possibility of sexual contact between you and this male.
You might.
It's worse to have, like, sexual contact with yourself.
Well, I said I don't want to have sex with myself.
But it's the same scenario that you're in with the other male if they're in the threesome, right?
Yeah, but
you're
I'm
in
not,
that, in that proximity to yourself.
Yeah, but it's like just looking in a mirror. I'm not actually making out with myself or anything.
But it's not. It's another person. That's the whole concept of the threesome. It's another person that's you. It's another male. It's exactly like you.
Just don't ruin my...
Exactly. It's worse even, I think.
What if it were just like an exact duplicate of me and he thought it was me as well? Like there was no difference between the two of us.
How is that better?
I don't know. And I was sharing the consciousness from the two of them.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah. So it would be like I'd be getting two different views of the action going on. That'd be cool.
Oh, that's weird, though. Is that something you want to have happen?
Yes.
So you can be having sex with someone at the same time in two different bodies?
Yes.
That's what you want.
It's always been my dream.
Well, when does that stop, though?
I don't know.
And then eventually there's like 17 of you, and you're all having sex with various people all over the country, and you're like viewing them all.
And the main Brad body is just
and the main Brad body is just
laying
sitting
on
there
the
being
couch.
like satisfied in so many different ways. Like every discussion we have, it always gets back to like, what is the point of life?
Yeah.
Because it's like,
It's to have a good time all the time.
apparently so. Then you just want to like have as many bodies as possible, have as much sex as possible at all times with as many different women as possible.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you.
Do-do-do-do-do-do.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.